Okay, hello my darlings, it's Michaela. So I am excited to talk about this topic tonight. And the truth is, I have to say, I brag that being in a fat burning mode, some of the topics that we've been talking about, just even like the automatic intelligence that our body can possess, weight loss drugs, visceral fat, I'm trying to think of another topic. But the thing that's so cool about being in this mode is you don't often deal with this shit. And so what I want to say is visceral fat has become a little more known to me because of clients coming in with this issue or wanting to understand how to speed up reducing it. And so again, we're going to look at this. Basically, we're going to talk about what it is, what causes it, why it's not a good idea to be hang out on your body for any number of years, what it leads to, and how to get rid of it. All right? So what is visceral fat? So visceral fat is essentially fat in our abdomen. So subcutaneous fat is the like jiggly pinch and inch stuff, the stuff that we tend to want to lose, as well as a belly, but it's the like jiggly stuff that we can actually touch. Visceral fat is tends to give us this hard, round belly, and it's because basically fat is stored deep inside our abdomen and it's wrapped around our vital organs. So it's around our liver, our pancreas, our intestines. And the thing that's really key to know about this might not be attractive to any given person, but it's strongly linked to metabolic disease. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. All right. So some of the causes of this big, hard belly are chronic insulin elevation. So this is from frequent eating, more refined carbohydrates, excess sugar and ultra-processed foods, alcohol, especially daily, chronic stress, elevated cortisol, poor sleep, and even a short term of sleep deprivation can increase visceral fat, a sedentary lifestyle, aging and hormonal shifts, especially perimenopause and menopause. And we'll talk about that a little later too. So why is this dangerous? Like, I feel like I've heard this forever, you know, that belly fat is worse for us than having like a big fat butt. And the reason why is because, and it's not just because it's closer to your heart, it's because it's metabolically active. And so basically it behaves like an endocrine organ. So it is excreting hormones, it's impacting hormones. So visceral fat releases inflammatory cytokines, which are basically chemical messenger proteins. So it's a way that our immune system communicates within itself. So basically these cytokines tell us that there's inflammation present, that there is an infection, that there's an injury. So it releases inflammation. It worsens insulin resistance. This is a big part of this. It sends fat directly to the liver, creates fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and it disrupts hormone signaling. So this is just like where the fat is, this is what it's doing, versus the subcutaneous stuff that's quite a bit more dormant. So the big deal is that visceral fat leads to or is strongly associated with type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, heart disease and stroke, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL, so this is all high cholesterol stuff and not the good kind, certain cancers, and increased all-cause mortality. So belly fat is like, it's a really big indication that health is not well. So it's strongly linked to metabolic disease. So I wanted to understand, like, what exactly is metabolic disease? Like, I think of metabolism as like our ability to create energy. Yes. So basically, metabolic disease is a state where the body cannot properly regulate blood sugar, insulin, fats, and energy. And so it's not one thing, it's kind of like a compromised condition. And basically, it's a progressive breakdown of metabolic function that develops over time. Most issues with the body and that are like life-threatening are a cause or caused by degeneration. So, you know, it's like we could all cut ourselves very badly or be exposed to, you know, infection. But typically, what really does a number on our health and makes us either age prematurely or die prematurely are from causes of degeneration, a weakening, an aspect of our body being compromised slowly and over time. So, what is the main mover in this issue? It's insulin resistance. So, if you've listened to me talk ever, you know that insulin is what we address in Fat Burning Pro Extended. Number one, insulin sensitivity. And so, truthfully, I've been doing this now for 13 years. And what I knew at the start was that basically insulin sensitivity makes weight loss easier. It makes weight gain harder. That sounds really useful. But insulin, so it's like we can have all the benefits of one end of the spectrum, or we could have all the detriments on the other end of the spectrum regarding insulin resistance. So insulin's job, so basically you need insulin to gain fat. You need insulin to be present. And so this is why we'll keep talking about this tonight. I hope this is really riveting for so many. I hope this is really eye-opening and really useful. This is not benign shit just kind of hanging off your midsection. But anyway, if you've listened to things that I've shared, essentially we need insulin to store fat. So eating less often, eating less carbohydrates, these are things that are useful for helping to either reduce insulin resistance, improve insulin sensitivity. Anyway, but insulin's job is to move glucose from the blood, hi Leanne, hi my dear, into cells for energy. That's its purpose. And if there's not enough space in our muscle cells and our liver cells, that's when it'll start to pack things into fat. So what is insulin resistance? That's when our cells stop responding properly to insulin, our pancreas produces more insulin, our blood sugar and insulin stay elevated for longer than they should. And this creates a chronic high insulin environment, which drives fat storage, especially visceral fat. So it's the state of insulin resistance that is really responsible for this, okay? And what were those causes? Eating often, having more refined carbohydrates, excess sugar in ultra-processed foods, alcohol, especially daily, chronic stress, poor sleep, sedentary lifestyle, aging, and hormonal shifts. We'll talk about that. All right, so we're gonna keep going. So the result of metabolic disease, the thing actually that I want to say, so visceral fat, it's active, and the thing that really sucks about it is that it kind of begets more of itself. So visceral fat is a result of metabolic disease, and it's also a driver of metabolic disease. That's why it's really dangerous. So visceral fat drains directly to the liver. It releases these inflammatory cytokines, these signaling proteins in our immune system. It worsens insulin resistance. So we need to have insulin resistance to create it. And then by having it, we worsen insulin resistance, and it disrupts fat metabolism. So it just creates a self-reinforcing loop more insulin. That's when we have high levels of insulin all the time. That's a more insulin resistant environment. Increases visceral fat, increases inflammation, worsens the insulin resistance, increases visceral fat. So visceral fat creates or indicates having a form of metabolic dysfunction or disease. What counts as metabolic disease? So once again, insulin resistance, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease driven by metabolic dysfunction. So that's kind of like, oh, what do I want to say about this? Why is this so harmful? It's like, because all of these things sound terrible. Basically, so these prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, like these are kind of like step 2. And then basically step 3, over time, this shit leads to heart disease, stroke, more compromised diabetes, cognitive decline, certain cancers, accelerated aging. So the thing that's really useful about being informed about your body is that then you have a chance of actually changing the trajectory. So one thing that I thought was so useful in this research that I did is that belly fat, visceral fat, is actually like a big fucking flag that the body is waving that shit is up, that things are not as they should be, that there is a concern going on. So the thing that's great about that is that you have a warning. And the thing that I also want to say about the body is that because it is so logical, because it is wired for health, and because it is wired for survival, it'll continually tell you when shit is not okay. And it gives us opportunities to actually change what the hell we're doing in order to correct that. So take it as a gift, because it is, versus, either like, oh, I have perimenopause and therefore I have belly fat and that's just kind of how it is. And it's like, not necessarily, like, you do not need to have that based on your makeup, based on what you're doing. But also this is just like a quicker slide into, honestly, premature aging and potentially premature death. Not a doctor and not a scientist. So those are kind of the facts, all right? I wanted to speak to this a little bit more about perimenopause. Oh, and then we're gonna just double down on like how to change this, okay? So one thing that I think is great, and again, like I've known how to change the body. Like I've known kind of like some big things and used tools that have helped us, all the people that I work with, to transition from using sugar for energy to using fat. And in that process, the body becomes more insulin sensitive. We focus on detoxification. We support the liver, which helps with blood sugar regulation, estrogen balance. We reduce inflammation in general. We eat less often, which helps with insulin sensitivity. We eat less carbohydrates, which helps with insulin sensitivity. And all of these things help with weight loss, but they help with metabolic health. And so the truth is, my primary objective for understanding how to help people in this capacity has been weight loss. And so the reason why I know about this and about so many other diets under the sun is because of my own issues with emotional eating. So my number one goal when I first learned about fat burning was to basically see how effective this approach was for out of control eating. And it's very useful. It's very forgiving. But in the meantime, I didn't understand how positive an impact this makes on the body in terms of metabolic health. So it's almost like, again, like I've known a lot, but now I'm kind of learning the more like juicy, effective, life-saving stuff after the fact, after kind of like living this and helping many other people to do that for over a decade. So anyway, perimenopause and visceral fat. So one thing that I think is interesting is that because so many fat burners don't deal with perimenopause, and it's because of how we're situated. It's because of all the stuff that we do that creates an environment where dips, fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone and cortisol aren't that big a deal. And so basically perimenopause, it's a metabolic stress test. So depending on where you are, you will either suffer more or not really at all. So it exposes weaknesses in, once again, insulin sensitivity, stress regulation, blood sugar control, and fat storage patterns. So hormones that protect us before perimenopause are hormones such as estrogen and progesterone, which aren't just reproductive hormones. These help, once again, maintain insulin sensitivity. They keep the fat stored more subcutaneously, our butt, our thighs versus in our belly. They help to regulate cortisol, they support muscle maintenance, and they protect cardiovascular health. So what changes in perimenopause is that basically perimenopause is defined by hormone volatility, not just decline. And so if your body can't handle that volatility, this is when we start to have more symptoms, or more, if for our purposes, stored belly fat. Key shifts, estrogen becomes erratic, highs and crashes, progesterone steadily drops, cortisol sensitivity increases, and sleep quality often declines. That's something that I think is really interesting too. So that sleep quality is such an important element for any Joe Schmo, as well as perimenopausal women with belly fat. So with the insulin estrogen connection, basically estrogen normally helps muscles absorb glucose, lowers fat accumulation, and enhances insulin sensitivity. But when it fluctuates and we don't have a backup plan in place like we do in fat burning, this is when insulin stays elevated longer, increased glucose gets stored as fat, visceral fat increases, inflammation rises, and accelerates this metabolic disease and risk. And I'm just going to say a couple other things about this pertaining to perimenopause, and then we'll just go back to what to do to reduce this. But the things that I just wanted to say tonight are that visceral fat is different than subcutaneous fat, that it inherently is more problematic simply by its existence, that there are certain things that cause it, there are certain things that can change it, and that it can actually change pretty quickly, which is quite exciting. So cortisol, when we have more cortisol in our body, especially during perimenopause, this makes this situation worse. It lowers progesterone, or lowered progesterone has less cortisol being buffered. Stress increases the metabolic impact of increased cortisol. Cortisol, once again, pushes fat storage towards the abdomen. Muscle breakdown increases, and blood sugar regulation worsens. And this is why stress, poor sleep, overtraining, and undereating, especially for perimenopausal women, hits harder because, again, we're just less buffered. And so when we eat less and move more, that was one thing I said in one of these videos, kind of as a little like preamble for this. You know, it's like, well, I have fat. So what do we do when we have fat? We eat less and we move more. And so for women, especially perimenopausal women, this when we increase stress in our bodies push back in a bigger way. It actually increases insulin resistance, increases visceral fat storage, and leads to more muscle mass. So, and then maybe my last thing that I want to say just about harm, kind of. So when we're in perimenopause, this is like for a typical woman, not a fat burning woman, which I'll like sing the praises of at the end of this. typically, our metabolic disease risks rise in perimenopause, increased visceral fat, increased insulin resistance, cholesterol levels worsen, blood pressure can worsen as well. And that increases the rates of things like prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease after menopause. So when we start to have these rising symptoms in perimenopause, we'll get the real deal shit after menopause. But again, like we said a little while ago, visceral fat is a signal. It's a big fucking like alarm bell going off. It's letting you know that shit is not all right, that things are heading south, and we have the opportunity to change them. So, how do we change this? Once again, I already said this at the beginning, but we're gonna do it again. So basically, reducing insulin exposure. And so that does not mean like, I never eat food. It means that we eat less often, we eat over a smaller amount of the day, and we potentially eat less carbohydrates. All of those things keep insulin out of our system more of the time, and it helps to increase insulin sensitivity. We take in an adequate amount of protein, that is like non-debated, regarding muscle maintenance and protection. We do strength training. And I'm also going to say too, check out the AI for the GI if you want just even like more like fun, heavy hitting facts about why it's so advantageous to be in a fat burning mode versus a sugar burning mode. When we're in a sugar burning mode, muscle is our backup fuel. And that's why it's such a cause of high anxiety when we get hungry and we're burning sugar, especially when we are at perimenopause or beyond. But basically our muscles just aren't protected. So it's like the amount of protein, the amount of strength training, all of those things become so much more crucial because we don't have any sort of protection. But when we're burning fat, muscle is not a fuel source. It's like there's no need for it because we kind of have unlimited access to unlimited energy. Walking is better. I push this to my fat burners a lot. Walking and weights, like do nothing else for the rest of your life besides these two things. And if you do nothing and you want to lose fat, walk. Like it is such a reliable way to tap into stored body fat without raising cortisol. And that's consequential really for everybody, but especially for certain populations over 40. We want to think about sleep quality and we want to think about stress regulation. But what's really exciting is that when insulin sensitivity improves, that is the main mover of belly fat, insulin resistance. So the opposite of that is insulin sensitivity. But when it improves, visceral fat is the first to go. Our blood tests improve even before weight changes, inflammation goes down, and we help to restore metabolic flexibility. And that's once again that usage of stored glucose, burning fat, creating energy, insulin regulation. That's metabolic health, metabolic flexibility. And the coolest thing is that when we improve insulin sensitivity, that's when big shit changes, and that's when big shit can change first. And so my inspiration for sharing this talk was, like I said at the beginning, not only because I've had fat burners come in with belly fat that they wanted to reduce, I've had perimenopausal ladies come in and talk about the fact that now they're suddenly gaining weight in their belly, that they never gained weight in their stomach before, that they were having a hard time losing it, or that they wanted to speed up the rate of belly fat loss. And so it's something that's just been more on the forefront of my attention. And so I know that it's so connected to insulin levels, and the shit that we do helps either keep insulin out of our system or keep it low, which is why belly fat reduction is so effective through this technique. And so on Friday, I shared our wins of the week. I tend to do that every week. And I named it like the shrinking tummy episode. And so there were all these side by sides of one man, many women, at a variety of stages in their fat loss journey of big shifts. Like suddenly this rotund, protruding belly is just gone or greatly reduced. And it's because of the approach that we take. But the thing that's so amazing about it is that not only is the approach that we take effective to reduce belly fat fast, but it impacts our metabolic health. And the belly fat is the big fat, hey guys, to tell us that shit is not good, that things are not working well, and they're only going to get worse if we let them go on. So, if you are a woman over 40 who wants to reduce her belly fat, who wants to prevent it, if this is something that you're seeing things kind of creep up a little bit or change a little bit, and you want to improve your health overall kind of forever by reconfiguring your hormonal composition to the tune of helping to stave off things that are going to cause degeneration in your body and help you to protect yourself, your muscles, your hormonal balance, and your waistline, please consider undergoing a mitochondrial reconstruction. This shit is no joke. The fuel that we use kind of determines everything. But what's so cool about it is that once you get reconfigured, then life just has a different path. Your health is on a different trajectory, comfortably, easily, not because you're trying really hard, or you can never eat salt again, or you need to be in the gym constantly, or you need to be on a ton of freaking medication. We help to prevent that stuff. Again, not a doctor and not a scientist, but this is just how the body works. So, if you are someone that would like to change a lot, honestly, by just changing some fundamental elements of your body in a way that feels pretty comfortable and is quite sustainable, slows aging, makes weight loss easier, makes weight gain harder, gives you plenty of energy. What else? Reduces belly fat. Like, we still have carbohydrates, we just use them strategically. But it's something that helps basically the body be in better standing kind of forever. So anyway, if that's of interest to you, in addition to the more obvious stuff, please check out our sugar quiz. I'll link it below. Please consider going through this change, deliberately, and going through our program, Fat Burning Pro. We either have a 5-week or a 13-week version. And essentially it's meant to take people from burning sugar and to whatever degree, whether that's, being hungry all the frickin' time, having wicked cravings, having energetic crashes, needing coffee, getting hangry when you get hungry, to having more visible signs that dysfunction is going on, or having more health issues be notably creeping in. It's all on one side of the spectrum. It's all on the sugar burning side. So when your body gets transitioned into burning fat, all of this shit starts to resolve because the underlying situations aren't there anymore. So it's not like, oh, we just eat broccoli instead of, grapefruit predominantly. Your body functions differently because the underpinnings are different, and what ends up resulting is a slimmer waistline, a more youthful appearance, a more youthful feeling body, comfort in your joints, just strength, no more concern really about like muscle mass breakdown because it's not our secondary source of fuel. Muscle is protected in this state. We recycle protein. We require less protein. It's just so advantageous for a million reasons. We're made to do it. And if we couldn't have done it, however many thousands of years ago, we would have died as a species. So it's made for survival. It's made for forever. It's made for you. And it's for longevity. It's for life. And it's for our culture, holidays, birthdays, like everything is factored in. And so it ends up making life just feel easy while maintaining a waistline that you love. So anyway, I will put that sugar quiz below. That's where most people start, just to see where they are on the spectrum, percentage of fuel wise. Sometimes that can be very eye-opening for people. And then I'll also attach our latest wins of the week that just has a whole like photo gallery of lots of like kind of before, during, afters of people's fat loss journey. All right, so I hope you find this useful. I hope you found this useful. Please check those things out. Please be in touch. And anyway, I hope this was fantastic. I hope this was eye-opening and very clear-cut in terms of why this is present, what this is indicating, why we don't want to have it for any duration, and what we can do about it. All right? Hope this is great. Love to you. And until next time.